What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actresses walks into what she believes is a friendly morning show only to find herself ambushed by a host determined to tear down her legacy? What unfolds is not just an interview, but a televised battle of integrity versus provocation, one that pulls back the curtain on the darker side of modern broadcast journalism. This is the story of how Meryl Streep, an icon beloved across generations, found herself fighting not just for her dignity, but for the right to speak her truth. Live on Good Morning America. The day started like any other at the GMA studios in Manhattan. Meryl arrived early, as always, her silver hair elegantly styled, a navy blazer framing her graceful composure. She was there to promote her latest film and nothing more. The producers had promised a light, celebratory conversation. Her publicist had confirmed, no surprises. But inside the studio, something was off. George Stephanopoulos sat at his desk with a tension that betrayed his usual calm. His production team whispered about questions that would make headlines. They weren't here to celebrate Meryl's work, or they were hungry for a viral moment. The cameras rolled. Joining us today is the incomparable Meryl Streep, George began, smiling, but there was a sharpness behind his eyes. Meryl responded warmly, "Thank you for having me, George. I'm always happy to be here." But instead of opening with a question about her film, George leaned forward, voice serious. "Meryl, your political activism over the years has been very vocal. Some critics say actors like you should stick to entertainment. What do you say to those who think you've overstepped?" The tone was instantly confrontational. Streep's smile faltered, and not from fear, but surprise. She had come prepared to discuss her art. Instead, she was being interrogated for her citizenship. "Well," she replied, calm but resolute, "the beauty of democracy is that every citizen has a right to express their views. Actor, teacher, plumber, or journalist, we all have a stake in where this country goes." George pushed further. "But you influence millions. Don't you think that comes with more responsibility?" Meryl's poise remained, but her voice grew firmer. "Yes, which is why I use my platform to speak authentically. I'm not telling anyone how to vote. I'm asking people to think, to care, to pay attention." But George wasn't done. "When you made those comments at the Golden Globes, weren't you telling millions their political beliefs were wrong? Isn't that advocacy?" Her eyes narrowed, tone sharpening. "George, I was speaking about empathy, about decency. If those values are now political, maybe it's our politics that need examining." The room was tense. Crew members shifted uneasily. This was no longer journalism, it was an ambush. George moved in again. "You've been called the greatest actress of your generation. When you speak politically, aren't you indoctrinating young actors with your worldview?" That was the moment everything changed. Meryl straightened. Her eyes locked on his. "Did you just accuse me of indoctrinating people?" The silence was deafening. She leaned in. "I've spent my life encouraging young artists to think and not to conform. If you think that's indoctrination, maybe you don't understand mentorship." George didn't back off. "I think you're being defensive. Surely you see how political speeches at award shows area broken bar problematic." Streep's voice turned icy. "What I find problematic is a journalist who misleads his guests, ambushes them, and tries to reduce years of work into sound bites." The host smirked. "But isn't that what you are? An activist using entertainment to push an agenda?" Meryl paused. "If caring about human rights is an agenda, then yes, I have one. But I call that being a decent human being." "Still," George pushed, "you're mobilizing your fans. Your political statements don't exist in a vacuum." Meryl laughed, cold and incredulous. "Mobilizing, George? My fans are intelligent. They're not puppets. They respond because they already care and not because I told them to." Then came his fatal move. "Your speech at the Golden Globes, some say it was inappropriate. People tune in to escape politics, not be lectured." Meryl stood. Not dramatically, not for effect, but with quiet, unshakable authority. "George, I have to stop you. What you call a political statement I call speaking from the heart. If that offends you, the problem isn't me. It's what you expect from your platform." George looked stunned. "Meryl, please sit down. We're in the middle of an interview." "No, she said simply. I won't sit while you twist my words. I was brought here under false pretenses. His composure broke. Meryl, I think you're overreacting. She looked at him, expression steely. Overreacting? You've accused me of manipulation, indoctrination. Now you dismiss my concerns as adramatic. You've revealed more about yourself in that one sentence than I ever could. Still he tried. These are standard journalistic questions, Streep replied, voice cold. Number. These are accusations dressed up as questions. And you're not asking to understand, you're asking to provoke. He tried again. I'm doing my job. No, she snapped. Your job is to inform and not to ambush, not to humiliate, not to sensationalize. You've betrayed everything journalism is supposed to stand for. He tried to interrupt. She raised her hand. I'm not finished. The studio froze. You invited me here to discuss my art. Instead, you've tried to corner me, question my right to speak, and reduce my convictions to controversy. That's not journalism. That's character assassination. George reached for a last resort. Meryl, if you walk out now, you're breaking contract. She turned to the camera. To those watching her, this is what happens when media becomes theater. When hosts care more about clicks than truth. This is not how we move forward. George, now desperate, called for security. Security didn't move. Streep turned once more. You're asking security to remove me for standing up to disrespect. Think about that. Think hard. And with that, she walked off. Her heels echoed through the studio as silence settled. George sat alone, the weight of his decisions written across his face. What was meant to be a routine interview had become a cautionary tale, a defining moment, and a stark reminder of why Meryl Streep remains, above all, a woman of unmatched strength, integrity, and grace.